Hey, so a lot happened since the last video. I think I said I'd be happy for the 5 people who watch it, but a few more than 5 watched part 1. So, you know, it's great motivation to continue making these, so thank you so much, genuinely. And I will have the special out soon. It's just a lot going on with lots of people, and so it's difficult to coordinate, if you know what I mean. Hopefully I'll have it out tomorrow, but no promises. Anyway, 5 more trios, well technically 6, but you'll see what I mean later. 2 of them I'm going to count as 1 entry. So, that's about it. Hope you enjoy.
Voidtime Trios, a trio consisting of Sands that have a connection to Gaster. So we have Last Breath Sands, who we've talked about in a previous video. We have Gaster Sands, which is basically just Gaster fused with Sands from an AU called Echo Tail. There's Epic Sands, which is basically he has an eye that he got from Gaster, and throughout the story Gaster tries and gets the eye back, I guess. There's Cross Sands from Outerverse, which hopefully you've watched. If not, I'm too lazy to explain. Maybe I'll do a video on it at some point. And then there's Cycle of Darkness Sands, which is basically Gaster tells Sands about how the world is just a game, and then he tries to delete you. And that's about it. Yay. The name makes sense, since all the Sands have a connection to Gaster, and therefore they have a connection to the Void as well. So therefore I'll give it the full 5 points for the name. Basically, Gaster assembles all of these together through his connections to them, so therefore the plausibility would make complete sense, since they'd have no choice in the matter, since Gaster connected and told them to work together. There's a reason I've used the Phase 3 theme throughout lots of my other videos. I love the music from this trio, it's probably my favourite out of all of them. And I will die on the hill that a Shimmering Law of Causality is better than Geometric Never-Ending Crisis. If you want to fight me on that in the comments to give me engagement, go ahead, I won't complain. But you can't convince me. As for the number of phases, I feel like 5 phases are a few too many. Like, there's 3 phases and then there's a fusion phase, and then there's another phase after that, and I don't know how I feel about that. So I'm going to give it 3 points for phases, as I feel like it didn't really need any more than 4. Okay, here we go, unrehearsed lore recitation. So, Epic Papyrus Encounter, basically Gaster contacted Epic Papyrus as well as all the others, and he meets Kara and Epic Gaster, who's fighting with them, and basically Epic Gaster traps him in the fight and then steals his eyes, and he dies. Then later they meet Gaster Sands in Alphys's lab, and he's working on a weapon, the Golden Valkyrie it's called, very nice. And then with the help of the Amalgamates, they fight them off and he runs to assemble with the rest of the trio. And then they fight you together, and after that ULB gets hit, the others manage to avoid or block the attack. Gaster Sands gives ULB a power boost, which makes him even stronger for his phase 2. And then they fight you again. And then after that, even with Epic Gaster's power, it took Kara a long time to beat the phase. So then after that, they used a world severing slash, applying a raise to the real knife. Very interesting. And then basically Gaster powers up the others and the fight continues in the void, I guess. And then after that, Gaster fuses the three together after the phase 3 into Transcendent Sands, and summons Cross Sands and Cycle of Darkness to fight alongside them. And then after that, they keep fighting again, and then the phase 5 happens, which is basically just them fighting and killing you. Yay. Oh, and also Epic Gaster steals Epic Sansa's eyes after phase 2, because, you know, eyes, very fun. Anyway, lots of lore, so 5 points I guess is what we're here for. In terms of fame, this is a less famous Sans trio, however it does still have a following of sorts. It's one of the it's one of the more famous ones anyway, so I'll give it 1.25 times multiplier, because it's not as famous as some of the others we've talked about, but it is still a famous one. No phase has more than 3 members, so even when they fuse, there's only 2 extra ones, which still technically means only 3 members, so I will give it so by our rules, it's fine, and it will not get any deductions for the number of members. All in all, this trio earns a score of 25.625, which places it below Chaotic Time, but well above Mad Time. And I'm not going to complain with that. I think that's about where I'd put it if I was ranking it just on opinion, so, you know, it's done pretty well for itself. Here's the big one, Murder Time Trio. This is probably the most famous one of them all, really, besides the original. So, anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, this trio consists of Dust Sans, who we talked about previously, they should have murdered everyone. Killer Sans, who made a deal with Kara and is also a psycho. Horror Sans, who, well, there's quite a lot to go into. Frisk left the underground and monsters are starving, basically. And there's Insanity Sans, where Gaster experimented on Sans with determination, and it didn't go well for Sans. The name, I think, works. It could be confused with just Murder Sans, which is another name for Dust Sans, but it still makes sense as all the Sanses are psychopaths and murderers. So there's not really another name that you could go with, so I'll give it the full 5 points. The lore justifies plausibility. In any other scenario, I'd say it's not plausible at all, but because of the lore, I'm going to give it the full multiplier, and we'll get onto why later. The music for this one's iconic, let's be honest. The one you can hear in the background, Triple the Insanity, is already one of the best songs out there, really. So yeah, it's definitely getting the full multiplier for music. I'm going to be honest, there are way too many phases for this thing, as you'll see with the lore. There are 4 main ones that most takes on the game seem to cover, which is the first 2, and then Satsujin, and then another phase of Satsujin. And I still think even then it's a few too many. I get that they're all stronger, but I still think only one fusion phase should really be counted. But yeah, there's just loads more phases than there needs to be. But despite that, since they are all technically stronger Sansas, I'm gonna give it a little bit of leeway and give it 3 points. But yeah, there's just too many. So like with Void Time Trio, I'm not going to rehearse, I'm just going to go for it for the lore. So there's the Fanon and the Canon lore. The Fanon lore basically just Nightmare Sans assembles them because he wanted a group of evil Sansas. And the Canon lore is basically Kara finishes a genocide route and Gaster hires them to go around the multiverse killing and getting data on these AUs. But eventually he regrets the decision as Kara kind of just disregards his part of the plan and just goes and takes it as a chance for murder. And so he assembles the ones that Kara struggled most with being Dust, Horror, Killer, and Insanity, and puts them all in the Judgment Hall together to fight. And then after that, so phase 1 happens, Horror gets deleted at the end, phase 2, Insanity replaces him, and then under phase 3, Gaster fuses them into Satsujin, and they keep fighting you. So on, and it keeps going, and after that, you know, they die eventually, but not yet, because then like the multiverse glitches out or something, and then you're like in a void, and then they show up and keep fighting you, which, you know, like at that point just give up. They ain't stopping. And then yeah, and then at the end it's just Kara and Gaster, and then Gaster's fighting them forever, regretting the decision he made for the experiment. Anyway, oh yeah, I'm meant to be rating this, obviously it's getting a 5, but yeah, that's about it. I saw a comment somewhere that summed up the fame pretty well. It was that Bad Time Trio created the concept and then Murder Time Trio popularised it. I don't think I can put it any better myself, really. That's basically justified. That basically just sums up the whole trio. So yeah, it's getting the full multiplier for fame, obviously. But yeah, this is probably the most famous and popular one. In terms of members, I'm not going to count the 4 different stances as being more than that many members, because Insanity only shows up after Horror dies in phase 1, and then even when they all fuse, there's only one sans, then just the fusion, which I can respect, and I'm gonna give it credit for that. So yeah, it's not gonna get anything taken off of it for a number of members. Maybe controversially, I'm not sure. So overall, this trio earns 30.75 points, which ties it with the original and with the Great Time Trio. And as touched on earlier, since this one is popular, and it's popular for a reason, I do really like this one. I prefer it to the original, so yeah, I'm going to put it above it, which makes it our new leader. Which, yeah, makes sense. So yeah, good trio. Good shit. Okay, so this is what I meant by having 2 in the same section. I'm going to count Last Breath Trio and Record Knowledge as the same, which they essentially are. Just expect Record Knowledge to do better, because it is just a more fleshed out version of the former. So we have Last Breath Sans, who we've touched on, Last Justice Papyrus, which is just Last Breath but underswap, and Last Hope Kara, which is just the story shift Last Breath. There are different names for it, but this is the one that seems to show up the most when I look it up, so there you go. So personally, for either of these trios, I'm not too sure on the name. I think Last Breath Trio's just boring, so it's only going to get 1 point, and Record Knowledge I'm going to give 3 points, but I do still think there are better options for a name, because this one does still feel kind of vague, but I do like that it's more original. Plausibility, obviously, for both of them, it's the last breath equivalent, so they'll remember the past and they'll realise that they should team up. So, yeah. Plausibility 1.25 times multiplier for both. For Last Breath Trio, the music's not bad, but it's way blown out of the water by record knowledge, which will get a 2 times multiplier. And it does just show me the missed potential of the other one, so I'm only going to give it a 1 times, because it's just disappointing compared to what we see it could have been now. The lore's the same for both of them, but record knowledge is a lot clearer about the lore and how it's the Gasters of their respective universes reminding them and getting them to team up again to fight you. And in the record knowledge, it's Gaster for Last Breath, River Person for Last Justice, and Flowey for Last Hope, which I prefer because it is more in line with the AUs rather than just being Gaster for all 3. So that's going to be 5 points for record knowledge and 3 for Last Breath. Let's be honest, the Venice animation has made record knowledge way more famous, and nobody remembers Last Breath Trio because record knowledge is that but better. So Last Breath Trio is getting a 1 times and record knowledge is getting 1.5 times. I don't need to explain myself any further, I don't think. So overall, record knowledge gets 26.25 and Last Breath gets 9.25. So that puts Last Breath Trio above Ink Time, but well below Disbelief, and it puts Bad Time Trio just below Karmatic but above Chaotic. So, you know, I don't think that's too bad. Moving on. Okay, here we go, Blox Time Trio. So this is the first one that doesn't have a game or music, so excuse the background, which is using the complete wrong music and is a game unrelated. It's the closest I could find, but anyway. We have, so I'm going to have to go over the lore because each character in here has a unique lore. So we have Rosans, who basically an Undertale fan on Roblox, got some Robux and changed his name, and he adopted Sans' abilities and also wears a Sans skin now. There's Scamsby, not me, Scamsby, I'm not a scam, and a guy called Blamsby got hacked and he was turned into a scam bot but nobody noticed, so the bot changed his name to Scamsby, and Scamsby got his account back but couldn't figure out how to change his name, and he couldn't change his password, so he shares the account with the scammer now. And when Blamsby died, the scammer just took over completely. And then there's Unhackable, who verified his account, which made him think that he was just untouchable as an account, which was true, and his account is impossible to be hacked. So, and he has an impossible complexity for like his login info, like his password, and only he can remember because he has photographic memory. He uses security attacks and stuff, and yeah, that's the 3 characters. That took a while to explain, but anyway, let's rank the trio itself, I guess. Okay, so the name's a little generic, but like, how many other Roblox trios do you know? Maybe 1 or 2. So I'm going to give it a pass and give it 5 points, because this is like the only Roblox trio I really know at the minute in my research. Skipping over the other 2 categories, which I've already sort of covered. Lore-wise, so I talked about the individual character lore. So basically they were a group of Roblox friends, and after splitting up for a while they got together because there was a hacker going around ruining their favourite childhood games, and their fantasies led to them hiring a hacker that gave them the abilities. So Rosans got like Sans abilities but with Roblox graphics. Scamsby gets scam attacks, and Unhackable gets like code attacks. And then basically over many years they try to stop this hacker, and eventually the souls of the people themselves fuse with the characters and they fight the hacker, who's you, a final time. Which, you know, like, peak as hell. You're gonna get full 5 marks for lore. This is just like, I'm obsessed with this trio now. This is the first trio that before my research I'd never even heard of before. So obviously it's gonna get a 1 times multiplier for fame. We just happened to come upon this on the wiki by chance. So, you know, it's here now, and hopefully it will get a little bit more attention. But yeah, for now, it's not very famous, and it's not going to get a multiplier. So overall, this trio went to score of 16.25. I'm obsessed with this one now. I wasn't joking when I said that. Yeah, 16.25 puts it below Disbelief Trio, but like, imagine being one of these losers that's below a Roblox trio that doesn't even have a music or a fight. Yeah, imagine. But, you know, it's what Roblox deserves at this point. Such a low score. Or a mid score. Yeah. I got to talk about drama for clout. Okay, Glitch Time Trio. So this consists of Error Sans, Fatal Error Sans, and Error 404 Sans. I'm not going to go over the lore because that would take a while, and I'm lazy. So if you want to find out more about them, there's several hundreds of videos on YouTube going over the lore of Sanses, so, you know, you don't want my 5-second explanation to butcher them. Anyway, let's talk about the trio. So the name for this trio, I think, is one of the only few good parts, but it is still kind of generic. Like, it could be confused for other glitchy Sanses. So I'm going to give it 3 points. Plausibility wise, Fatal Error would never team up with Error, and I'm not sure if 404 would care enough to team up with these lower errors. So I'm going to give it a 0.75 times multiplier. It'll take a slight hit, because I can't see the trio happening. Despite everything else in this trio, I love the music. The music's one of my favourite parts about this one. Probably one of the few parts I like. So, you know, it's going to get 2 times multiplier for the music. But yeah, moving on. There isn't anything in terms of lore that I could find, but here you go. Here's my rendition of what the lore would look like. Thanks to the boss sim game, this trio is a lot more famous than it used to be. So I'm going to give it a 1.5 times multiplier. Because if a trio has a game, 9 out of 10 times it immediately just becomes way more famous. So there you go, 1.5 times for fame, all because of Mr. Little Old Boss Sim. So overall this trio earns a nice, respectable 15.75. I'm annoyed it did so well, but it slots in nicely just below Blox and just above Last Breath, so it fits in the nice new tier that didn't have anything in it before. So now the list at least looks a bit nicer, so that's one thing good that it does. Yay! Okay, so a few things before we end the video. First of all, I decided to make a change to this, so I will not be ranking AUs of Sans trios or takes on the Sans trios, because as I was looking around I found like so many Chromatic Time Trio takes and others. I might do a video in the future where I like anthology them and just list as many as I can, give a brief opinion on them, but for this series I'm not going to be considering them anymore. That at least reduces my workload, hopefully. What else? Oh yeah, in the description I'm going to put the credits of the creators of each of the trios that I've talked about before and in this video, because I've thought in the past I haven't done that and it might be a good idea to give credit where it's due. So make sure to check the description. Anything else? Oh yeah, sorry this took so long. Things have just been busy, and I'll hopefully have the 100 sub special out soon, like I said before. I'm not sure when I'll make part 4. I start university in just under a month, so then I'll have more availability for like recording videos and stuff, and then hopefully I can lock in and properly work on this, and also a few other projects that I have going on. So hope you all like that and are excited to see what comes next. Also, thank you again for 100 subscribers, it really does mean a lot to me. And I know 90% of that is people who have only subscribed for this series, and I'm fine with that, it gives me more motivation to work on it, so I don't care. But I would love if you check out my other videos too, because I'm more than just a guy who rants awfully about trios. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. I'll see you in the next part whenever I do make that. And I hope that this series keeps picking up steam because it's really exciting to see. Anyway, bye now.